take a look at your tasks for the week. So,
Yeah, this was a very challenging piece, Daniel. I
yeah,
found it to be challenging.
yeah.
Too hard.
Um,
Too hard, was it?
well, there
I
were
was looking,
pockets where,
I
yeah,
spend a good maybe 30 minutes looking for the right example that was a good balance of everything we've
Challenge.
talked about. So, I was looking through method books and saw studies, and then I thought this one was a good balance in terms of chunking and primary chords and form and phrase structure. I do know that the keys might have been a challenge, right? Is that part of it?
I
sure,
couldn't.
for sure.
Going to
But
with that
you,
many
you
sharps.
picked something, Robert. I couldn't find any reason to change the key at all, except that strange patch where there was no repetition. I thought, is there a key change here, or is it a change in section, or? But I couldn't really see any reason to say anything.
Yeah, I was so curious that I decided to color mine in. I really had kind of like a crayon
That
mentality
didn't
because
help
I'm
me.
like, where's the pattern? There's got to be a pattern in here.
Both did.
And
Yeah, you
so,
actually both did
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah. Because
you both actually you almost used the same colors too. But I think Christine is yours is for repetition as well. That you
Yeah,
two are almost like in sync with each other.
I think
Look at this.
they're,
Take a
they're
look.
the
So this is
textures.
Robert's one here,
They're the
and this is
textures in the pattern.
Christine's one here. Look, you both use yellow, red, and
yeah,
blue. Just you've just used them for different the blue and the blue and the red for
orange. Yeah, with orange we
orange.
swapped, but yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but and then there's pink too, pink or purple.
Mhm.
There's a bit of purple there.
That's so funny. We've been studying together for quite a while. We're study buddies.
Yeah, that's it. All right. So, um, let's talk about always big picture first, form. So I noticed. This is
Oh,
just repetitions. Yeah.
right. That's just that I didn't combine mine. My other one was that it got really very inky. Yeah,
Yes.
you see.
Yes.
Oh, so yeah, down at the bottom, those where I show my work.
Yes. A B A.
There we go.
Very good.
Now this I just went out on a limb on this one, so I don't know. I'm here to learn.
See, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I called it ABA because it was the closest I could get to seeing sections.
It's a
But the
tricky
two
one.
A's are
Yeah.
fairly different, really. I
That
mean, it's got the same collection of repeated phrases, but they're in different combination, if you see what I mean.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
right.
I'm dying to know. I'm dying to know what
Okay.
is it?
So one clue. So this is a tricky one because we don't the sections don't repeat. So yeah, it does make it a little bit more challenging to sort of find where the starting and ending points of each section are. And I would say that that has a large role in determining what the form is in this case. The fact that there are no repetitions, you've both correctly identified, that where the sections start and end, which is great. The A section here, the B section there, where it changes key, and then the A section here, where it goes back to the original theme. So one clue that it's of the form is what is happening with the A section when it comes back. It's a complete repeat of, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think there's any difference, right? The A section at
Well,
the
I think there's
first A
one
pass,
note.
They're in a different order.
they're in a different order, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
a
first
little
two
bit.
bars
Ah, I see. This,
in the A section are repeated when it's the A section comes up again. But then the beginning of the first bar is, the next one's different, and then the one, two, three, the fourth bar comes in.
Yeah, I think you'll see that if you see my colored one. I think it
Yeah.
points out a little bit more because it is different. It's almost a repeat. I noticed there's one note that's different, but
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
but it's not a repeat.
There's an arpeggio that's a little bit different, right? Like that.
Yeah, in that right there, that note right there that you're looking at, that E, I think is different.
Yeah.
No, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But it's very close, but it's not a repeat.
And this is different to the third bar, and that one.
It's the same as the third
Right.
bar, isn't it?
Yeah, the third
Up at
bar
the
as
top
well.
bar.
Yeah, is different, but otherwise it's the
Is it?
same. Yeah, otherwise it's the same. So it's an almost exact repetition. If it were rounded binary, you'd you'd probably get either you'd have a repeat back here where the B section begins, right? That would make it rounded binary. Or the A section would end differently to the repeated A section would end differently to the first A section. One of those two.
Oh, and they
options.
are repeats.
Because so no, there are no repeats there. But so because I would deem this an exact, even though it's not exact. Some notes that are slightly altered. It's basically an exact repeat of the start. I mean, we're not getting new chords or new melodic material. It's pretty much an exact repeat. A compositional thing to do is when a section returns, you might add like an ornament or slightly alter an arpeggio pattern or something, but it's still essentially the same 8 bars and stuff. So I think probably ternary form would be.
It's ternary. I was gonna go with ternary.
Really depend.
That makes sense.
It's a very hazy one because, if you were to add repeats to it, then that would really sort of influence what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But it's okay. You've got you both identified the sections and the keys. That's the most important thing. You both correctly identified where the sections, the boundaries are, and the keys. So that's good.
So I guess just thinking, I mean, the kind of practical application of this is that we recognise the keys, recognise the chords, have our fingers ready, so that as we move from bar to bar, we're sort of half in position very quickly.
Yes, definitely. Well, once you know the keys, then you have a whole framework based around the primary chords of what to expect, what's coming, right? Yeah.
But also in terms of repetition, it doesn't actually matter if it's not exact repetition, providing it's sort of almost the same.
Well, it's so similar. I mean, you're putting down the same chord, and you're pretty much putting down the same notes.
Yeah.
Okay, that third bar it does go up a bit higher, but the chord is the same.
So
most
the main
of the notes are the same.
Right.
Is recognising the chords, isn't it? And then getting your fingers in the right position really quickly.
That's right. Yeah, recognizing the chords very, very helpful. And so I chose this example too because a lot of it can be chunked. You can put down a lot of these chords in one hand position, which is, a lot of guitar music can fall onto the fretboard that way. So, very good. And then, I guess next, when we zoom into the next level, it would be phrase structure, looking out for parallel periods. And
right.
repetitions, right? So did you see parallel periods in this one?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, if we listen to the All right. So the first 8 bars, the A section, does it contain a parallel period? Is it 4 plus 4, question and answer with the question and answer starting the same? So if we count 4 bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's say that's
Right.
and then we look 1, 2, 3, 4. We're at the end of the A section now.
Right.
Let's call this now the question, and this is the answer. Do they start off with the same material?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do
Both
have a
start with
parallel
the same
period.
Question and the answer.
The question and the answer starting off with the same 2 bars. Right, same 2 bars at the start, and the question ends on, this is great, if you analyze 5, right? 5. Christine's also got that, and the answer ends on 1.
Right. Oh, yep. Right there it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a very common expectation in a phrase structure, to see the parallel period, and you both identified it, but kind of you put the yellow there. See, you've both done the yellow.
Right. The yellow is the
yellow
question and the answer that
yeah,
repeats.
it's the question and the answer, the same material, and then you see that again down below where the A section comes back. So that would be, I see. Blue. Let's have a look down at Christine's. Yeah, I guess the slight variations maybe threw both of you off a little bit. Threw you off the scent.
Just the slightest.
Yeah. It's one of those
yeah.
things with music. It's very, yeah. Some of these ideas, some of these musical, I guess, devices, parallel periods, form, even harmony, sometimes are blurred a little bit by the composer. So, but does that kind of help, just to see that parallel period makes up the A section? Does that
absolutely.
Sort of just give, yeah something to expect in so many pieces? This idea of the parallel period is, I guess it's really great because it gives you a framework for repetition. So you're not just looking out for repetition, but a specific layout of the repetition, if that makes sense, right? And there are so many pieces that an entire section is made up of a parallel period with this repetition of material between the question and the answer. So if we go to the B, so that explains the repetition in the A section. So if we go to the B section, let's have a look. We'll go to repetitions now in the B section. So yeah, we're getting the blue, purple,
right,
blue. Yeah. So that's definitely, and let's see if Christine. So Christine, I sort of chunked it together a bit more, didn't you?
2 bar thing.
You saw the 2 bar, yeah. So it's kind of like 2 bars and then a repeat of those 2 bars. But it's actually, it's always 3 bars, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Right.
Yeah. So if we have a listen to that. And then we go into new territory. And then we're back to the A section. Okay, so yeah, we have this like, sort of 2 plus 2, which if you think of like Lagrima, 2 bars, and he does it again. Very, very common. If you're not seeing a parallel period, the next most common repetition in phrasing is this sort of 2 plus 2, like where the another example, adelita. So that's one. Oh, it's 1 plus 1 in this case. Just a back to back repetition, right? One, and then repetition. Okay, so that's quite common as well. And then as for the rest of it, yeah, it's sort of all new material following that. So those bars 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those 8 bars there in the middle, the most problematic, the most challenging ones. But yeah, if you've managed to identify all of these repetitions so far, and then when we get to this point, then you're doing good. You're doing really good. So yes, we're in B major now for the B section. I think you both identified the chords in the A section. Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's our primary chords. Yeah. How did you? Yeah. So we're talking substitutes. That's partly why I picked this one, because it has some substitutions in it. Let's see. Where's Christine's gone?
I didn't pick the B major, so I thought the whole thing was in E major.
You got any question marks? I see. Yeah, B. B section. I see B section. Yeah, I see. So yeah, Christine, the B section does change key.
Yeah, I suspected something changed. I couldn't see why. I looked at it.
Yeah. Well, there is one note that keeps on getting altered.
The A sharp.
Robert, how did you figure out that it was in B major?
Well, I figured out it was in B major when I got to the end of the 8th measure, and then I saw that it goes to the B, D sharp, F sharp, and I was kind of like, yeah, right there in the 8th measure. And I was like, well, that's my first clue. And then I kind of noticed that the next chord was the F sharp major, F sharp, E, A, and in fact it was a 5/7 because you have that E there. So I was like, well, if I've got a B and then I got an F sharp and it's a 7, then that's most likely a 5/7/1. I'm in B now, And then I know that I'm going to see E again because I've already identified that repeat at measure 21. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, here we go. But then this is what happened to me. As I got to the end, that's when I saw the substitution. So in the second to last measure, that's when I saw the 5 of 5. When I saw that F turns to B, goes back to E. And then when I saw that, that's when I recognized it in the A section. So I had to go, for a long time, I didn't see it.
You reverse engineered from the end,
so that's kind of how I did it. That's
good. Yep, great. So you identified the 5/7 there with the A sharp, and it's that note that keeps coming back, the A sharp. That's a bit of a clue.
That, but I couldn't make any connection with.
Now if we point it out, if I circle all those A sharps, it's does that give a bit of?
They are everywhere.
I could see all the A sharps, but I didn't. I thought they must have just been sort of added in and not indicated.
If they were added in, if they were some sort of special chord, you probably wouldn't see them this much. You might maybe once, maybe twice, maximum in 8 bars. Right. This is quite frequent. Yeah, so.
What I should have thought was because there are so many A sharps, it must mean a change of key.
Yep. If you're seeing one note that's being altered so frequently especially if it's a new section where you expect a new section to change key, then that those two sort of factors will, I think, contribute to say, well, that's probably a change of key then. We're in a new section, we're seeing one accidental a lot.
how did you work out which key it changed to?
How did you work out? Well, Robert did it because of he saw a B chord and then he saw an F sharp chord and realized it's the dominant. So it's tonic dominant. And it is one of the standard key changes. This is what I struggled with too. So I had to find, because there are other key changes that occur, but the ones that we've mentioned, the relative, the parallel, and the dominant, are the most common. I did see lots of examples where it modulated to the subdominant key. So I didn't want to give you one of those because
we would have been very upset if you had done
been a little. So
this is bad enough, but yeah, right.
So you can see where I was struggling a little bit. I found lots of examples, quite a few that went to the subdominant. So this is an example of a modulation to the dominant key. So the other challenge about that is it's the one where you don't see a change of key signature, right? And they're both in major. So they're both in major. So if you're playing through, you won't pick up perhaps so easily from the change of, mood and sonority and everything from major to minor. So it's major to major and no key signature change. So it is the most challenging to pick up on. You really have to look at the accidentals if it's going to the dominant. Okay, so this chord is a substitution for A. So we expect, I think you both wrote, awesome. This is great there. And Christine also, yep, very good. A, C sharp, E. So we're expecting A, C sharp, E. However, with this chord, we have the F sharp in there. So substitutions, third below, third above the chord gives us our substitutions. F sharp is a third below. So F sharp, A, C is what, those are the notes we're actually seeing. F sharp, A, two A's, and a C. So it's not A, but what chord? What chord is it? It's very close. It's just one note away from A.
Is it F sharp?
It's F sharp. Is it major or minor?
Minor.
Yeah, it's minor. It's F sharp minor.
Yeah.
So it's the two chord in the key of E, right? E, F. It's the two chord. So we're getting like a 2-5-1 at the end, right? 2-5-1. Very often it's in first. It's very often in first inversion, because if you put the two chord in first inversion, you get the subdominant in the bass. You get the A in the bass, right? If you put it in first inversion, so you often see it in first inversion. The two chord.
Tricky.
Okay. And I'm good at this one. Oh, I need to see. Okay, so and then in the B section, it's got a little tricky, right?
Yeah, yeah. Don't look at my work. My work. But if it's in pencil, that means I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Just
but all of mine will be wrong there because I didn't get the change of key. So
right, yeah, that's okay. Excuse me.
Just be right back. Oh well, in that case, I got the one at least. I knew what the one was. I'm gonna admit something, Christine, which is that, okay, so I've been working with this piece for a couple of days now, right? And I kept saying to myself, you know what, I gotta sit down and play it, right? I'm gonna sit down and play it, but I haven't had time. So I just sat on the couch and I did all the academic work. Yeah. And then, but I hadn't actually heard it. And then Daniel played it right now. And I realized I've been playing this piece for 25 years.
Oh.
Looking at it wasn't enough.
I'm looking at it. I'm like, I've been playing this piece for, when my very first music book in 1997, This is like one of the first pieces I learned. And he played it, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm a dope.
There you go. That's
I've been studying this thing all week like it's a new piece of music.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'll be curious to see if you do play it and if it sort of brings.
Oh, it's going to change now. It's totally going to be a different, absolutely different animal.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Okay, so in this B section now, talking harmony. Oof. Need to look at these chords here. They're tricky. In the key of B major, we're seeing a double sharp over there.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
An E sharp. What kind of note is that? E sharp. So, what's happening here? What have you got there? Yeah, so we've got E, G sharp, and B. If you stacked it in thirds, E, G sharp, B, this note we'll call a passing note.
Passing note. I was like, there's got to be a passing note in here somewhere.
E, G sharp, B stacks in thirds. E sharp. This is a very strange chord. E sharp, G sharp, B. This is the challenge with B major. I'll give you a clue though, what you can do with when you're in a key with a lot of sharps or with a lot of flats, and you get a chord like this. Okay, let's say you're able to stack the notes in thirds, but now actually identifying what kind of chord it is very challenging. At least I find it challenging too, right? It's just when this many sharp, like E sharp, it's already thrown me. So what I do is I go, well, what would the chord be if I transpose it down a half step? E, G, B flat. That's a lot easier for me to think about, right? What's E, G, B flat? What's E, G, B? Well, that's E minor. So E, G, B flat must be
diminished.
Diminished. Minor third plus minor third. That means that E sharp, G sharp, B also must be diminished because it's the same. It's the same pattern
stacking order.
Up. Yeah.
It's E sharp diminished is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he says.
So I wanted to throw this in because there will be times when you sight reading and chords with sharps will come up and you need some kind of tactic to say, oh, how can I figure out what this chord is? That's it. So transpose it down a half step. If they're flats, transpose it up, right? If you have like E flat, G flat, B flat or something like that, transpose those all up. Basically taking away the flats with that chord, but just transpose up or down, and it can help to reveal what the chord is. It's just easier to think without all the sharps usually. Yeah.
Be darn.
Okay. So that's E sharp diminished. All right. E sharp diminished. Okay, let's keep.
Yeah.
Let's look at the next chord. So the next chord is. Now we get E natural. We get A sharp, C sharp, and E. So if we stack those together, A sharp, and you got those down here, Robert.
Right. So, yeah, I identified them. I didn't know what they meant though. So I guess if I stack it, then I've got an. Do I have an A major augmented? No, A sharp.
So if we transpose them all down a half step.
Oh, okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. What would we get now that you know the process? What chord is it?
A C E.
A C. Flat. The E needs. That's it. It has to be E flat. It needs to be E flat. A.
Right.
The A sharp goes down to A. C sharp goes down to C. E goes down to E flat. So you guys know what ACE is, right? A minor. So if you're adding a minor third to the top of a minor triad, if you got minor third and then another minor third, then it's diminished. So that's
A
that's
diminished.
A diminished. So it's A sharp diminished, right?
A sharp
A
diminished.
sharp diminished. Yeah, A sharp diminished.
Okay.
That's a bugger of a chord too. E sharp, as we would say in Australia, yeah. So E sharp diminished and an A sharp diminished.
Well, at least I know why they sound like they belong together.
Yeah, so two diminished chords. So let's try to make sense of them. So if I added a third below this A sharp diminished chord, we had F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, E.
Okay.
What chord is that? And you've actually identified, we've seen it earlier. F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, E.
F sharp minor seventh? No.
Not F sharp minor, we've got A sharp in there.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So,
so F
again,
sharp.
if it helps to transpose it down, we'd have F, A, C, and then E flat. If I transpose it all down a semitone. So what type of chord is that? F, A, C is major. E flat is this flattened seventh.
All right. So then we raise it.
When you raise it,
So
it's the
it's
same.
just F sharp 7.
It's F sharp 7. That's correct.
Yeah.
So this is a substitute for the dominant. It's a substitute for F sharp 7 because A, right? A sharp, C sharp, E is embedded into an F sharp 7 chord. Okay. If we take maybe a dominant chord we're more familiar with, G, B, D, F, G7, right? We notice that if you take the G away, you get B, D, F, which is a diminished chord.
So let me just make sure I understand that. If we have an A sharp diminished, we had here, and if we added the F, then we would have an F sharp 7.
Got it.
Which is the substitution chord.
It's the A sharp is substituting for the dominant. So the function of
there
this
it is.
chord,
Okay.
the function of this chord is dominant, right? It's 5. That's the function of it because it's so close. It's got 3 of the 4 notes we need to make a 5 chord. So it's functioning like 5. So that's where this chord beforehand comes into play. It's actually related to F sharp. This is really tricky. So I would really, in my head, I transpose. So I think down and I think, okay, well, if this was E diminished, going to F, right? E diminished going to F. Yeah,
so E diminished.
It makes it's easier for me to think about what's happening. So E diminished, we have the notes E, G, and B flat. E, G, B flat.
Right.
Now, if we add a third below that, what do we have? What note can we add to the bottom?
A D?
No, third below E.
Oh, the third below E would be
Christine, did you say?
B.
Nope.
C would be the
Third
C.
below,
Right?
yeah, third below E. Counting down is always harder than counting up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the
I have to
C.
say,
The D,
yeah. So
and then
C, E, G, B flat. What kind of chord does that create?
Oh, C7.
C7. All right. So E diminished can substitute for C7. And now C7 going to F is?
C7 is
if we saw C7 going to F major or F minor.
So F, G, C. Yeah, right. So C7 is the dominant of F.
It's the dominant of F. That's right. Okay. So this E sharp diminished chord is functioning like the dominant of F sharp. Okay. So we've transposed it down to sort of make it hopefully a little easier to think about. C7 going to F is dominant to tonic. The E sharp diminished. They're both substitute though. They're both chords are being substituted, right? So that's a challenge as well. Another challenge. But essentially, if you can just distill it, and again, it's a form of dominant to tonic. It's just that we've gone outside of the key for a moment. We've gone outside of B major, because if we had the dominant of B major, that's F sharp, right? So this chord is like the dominant of the dominant. It's like 5 of 5, and then it goes to 5. So it's another dominant to tonic relationship. 5 of 5, or you could just write 5 and then 1. You can think 5, 1 if you wanted to. Just
they kind of cascade, right?
Moment. Yeah, it's kind of cascading. Because that's a tricky one. That's a tricky spot there.
Wow, that is tricky because, of course, all of the substitutions and
getting the substitutions
and the diminished chords.
Diminished chords.
Yeah.
But what you realize the more that you study examples like this, is that it's always going back to the primary chords. It's always going back to 1 4 5 1 4 5 1. In this case, we went out to a different key. We went out to F sharp major, and we went to the dominant and the tonic of F sharp major, and then, as we'll see what's coming next, a very similar process happens in the next 2 bars, and then we're back into B major, to standard B major chords. So these 4 bars, quite challenging to analyze. So Robert, you got the 6 here, which is correct. It is the 6th chord in B major.
Right. I mean, I identified it, but I don't know why it's there.
Yeah.
I just know it's there.
So the 6th chord in B major, or in any major key, the 6th chord is. So if we're in C major, the 6th chord is A minor, which is the
the relative minor.
Relative minor. Yeah. So this is the relative minor.
Of course.
Right. That's the relative minor.
There it is.
Chord. Its function is substituting which chord? Which chord is it substituting for? I think Christine kind of maybe. Oh no, you sort of thought of it as a B chord. I think, Christine. It is kind of close because it's the relative minor. So, but if we put an E down here, we'd have E, G sharp, B, which is
we'd have the E. That's well, actually, that'd be an E7.
E. Let's just take that out.
Forget that note. Yeah. Then it would just be an E major.
E major, and that chord is in B major is
the dominant.
Not the dominant.
Oh, is it?
B, C, D.
Oh, it's the 4.
E, yeah, it's the 4.
It's the 4 chord.
Functioning like the 4. Okay.
So C, the 6 substitutes for the 4 in the other key.
2, 4, 6 substitute for each other. 2, 4, 6. The even chords all substitute for each other. So that chord is minor. It's G sharp minor. Okay, it's G sharp minor.
I knew you know what? I knew it was a G sharp. I'd actually written G sharp right above it. I know it was a G sharp minor.
If you play that and then sounds like game over. What do we should? Right, so E. This is what we'll start talking about this month. So, another way you can figure out what a chord is if you're able to shift it down into the first position, right? If you can shift it down to the first,
right.
Maybe we could both try that. But both of you could try it. We'll start phasing into fretboard knowledge now. If you can,
very good.
if you can both, Christine, if you'd like to grab your guitar and play this chord, and then we're going to shift it down. And another, I think, so one way of working out what chords are is you can transpose them down, once we've figured out what the notes are, what the triad is, and if it has lots of sharps, we can transpose it down. We can take the sharps away, and that can help us. Another way is to shift it down into shift the chord down into the first position, and then that will also show us what is the chord. That will teach us what the chord is, and we'll learn chords in between that as well. We'll learn all the chords in between. So, are you able to both fret this chord? So, if you find G sharp, B, and D sharp. So whatever helps you better. If you've got 1 and 1, D sharp 1. Usually good to think about where that first finger is, especially if there's a little half bar, which is being suggested here. So the D sharp is on what fret? Fourth fret. So we're in fourth position. Fourth position for the chord. So if you lay down your first finger on the fourth fret, half bar, you'll have D sharp and B, and then you put your third finger on the fourth string, right? One finger per fret, and you'll get G sharp. So could we hear that? How are we going? I think you both got it. Thomas, you got it, and Christine, I think you're very close. I think you just need to get your third finger down. So third finger, which will be, if you go one finger per fret. That's it. I think you've got it. I think you got it.
I've only got a bar A across the.
Got the bar A, and then add your third finger onto the fourth string.
So a B on the fourth string is.
No. Not a B, a G sharp. G sharp on the fourth string. Yeah.
So
that's it.
Which fret?
That's it.
The fifth.
You played. Sorry.
Is it the fifth or the sixth fret on the fourth?
Sixth.
It'll be the sixth fret. Yeah, sixth fret.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Just try to think one finger per fret in the fourth position. So your third finger is 2 frets above your first finger, if that makes sense. Okay, could you play that chord, Christine?
Just wondering.
That's it. Awesome. Great. Okay, so both of you, or maybe all of us together, will shift this chord down into the first position. Okay, so ready? So let's play the first one, G sharp minor. Yeah, and then let's take it down a fret. So that's going to be what?
G minor.
G minor. Take it down a fret again, second position.
F sharp minor.
F sharp minor. Now first position. F minor, and we can do one more. If we lift off the bar and shift our third finger down to the second fret, what do we get there?
It's E.
E minor, a chord we're much more familiar with. Yeah. So this G sharp minor chord shape you can derive it from E minor, right? Yeah. Does that make sense? It's
Yep.
It's shifting this chord shape of E minor up to G sharp. So the root note, and we're actually adding, I think we're adding another note, or I was adding another note on the first string, which you can, since we've got the half bar down there, we can do that. So that means the root note is on both the fourth string and the first string, right? The root note is on the fourth string and the third. If we're playing this chord specifically, so without the first string, the root note is where? Which finger? Which finger is playing the root note on what on what string?
G sharp on the fourth.
Got it.
String.
And what finger is that, Christine?
Third finger.
Third finger. Always good to make that connection. What finger is it to? What finger am I playing? So that's the root note. So now you guys could shift it anywhere. You could shift this chord anywhere and be able to tell me what chord it is, right? So if we go up a fret, so that was G sharp on the fourth position. So if we go up to the fifth position, what chord is that?
A, is it?
A. Yeah, you got it. A minor. A minor.
Flat third.
Flat third. Yeah, that's right. If we shift it up a fret again. What do we have there?
A sharp minor.
A sharp minor. Yeah, or B flat minor. Either one. Yeah. Shift it up again.
B.
B. Yeah, B minor. B minor. Yeah. So this is really interesting because this chord shape is used a lot in pieces of music. So we found one example of it from one piece where it's G sharp minor, but if we went through lots of other pieces, especially in minor keys, you know, if you played a piece in A minor, you're very likely to see this A minor shape in there somewhere, or some variant of it. If you played a piece in B minor, very likely to see this B minor chord shape or some variant of it. Right? So we see these chord shapes that are seemingly disconnected, right? When we see them in different pieces, they're seemingly disconnected, but when you make the connection that they're the same chord shape, right? When you make that connection that they're the same chord shape, just shifted up and down the fretboard, it makes these higher position chords a lot easier to read and identify what the chord actually is too. Yeah. So maybe we'll phase off now into what to focus on for this week.
Okay.
So it's a bit more practical this week. What I'd like you to focus on, I'm actually going out of order, but I feel like this is a good runoff from what we just looked at. Yeah, so I have to go to the book actually.
Are you looking at the movable interval patterns?
I look at movable. Movable. I just want to look at the movable. Movable, dominant, and tonic. So it's just this one page, but there's a lot on the page. What I'd like you to do, maybe just choose. I mean, maybe we can do a quick read through of these now and just see how you go, and then based on that, you know, we'll see how many you could realistically practice over the week. So if we look at this first one, does this seem okay for both of you? Is it you're both able to?
Looks good.
You know, it looks good. Okay, Robert, could you do it first, please, for us?
The G7.
G7. So we got an F on the.
Oh, it's an F.
Yeah.
F. It's not an F sharp. It's just
It's not F sharp. It's F. it's weird because it's the second finger on the first fret, but there's a reason. There's a
I
reason for that.
yeah,
So
I can
that's
see that now.
G7, and then yeah, so that's the dominant to the tonic, G7 to C. I've indicated where the root notes are. So in the first chord, the root note's on the third string, and then in the second chord, it's on the fifth string. It's also on the second string as well.
Got it.
Okay, so then what you do next is you shift that chord progression up a fret. So now
okay.
your second finger goes on the second fret and you bar the first fret.
Oh, so like
Yeah, that's it. And then keep that bar down.
yeah. No, that's it right there, right? Yeah,
Fifth string.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't play that right.
Yeah, so that it's one finger per fret when you do that bar chord. So the fourth finger will be on the fourth fret.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like that? That drove too far. Whoa. Because it's.
You just about had it.
Okay.
Just about had it. That's it.
That.
That's it. That's it.
There it is.
There it is. Okay. So
okay. That's not easy.
yeah, it's not that easy to play. But you get a lot out of it because, as we've seen, dominant to tonic is very frequently used in music. I mean, this piece is, aside from those crazy 4 bars that we looked at, most of it is dominant and tonic. Lots of pieces are mostly dominant and tonic. So you're practicing dominant and tonic up the whole fretboard. So what actually I think what I'll get you to do is just choose one each, one of these exercises, and play them, say the notes and say the chords. Okay.
Okay. Say out loud.
Out loud. So when you play that first one, you play the
G7.
chord, say the chord name, say the notes too.
So right, G7, a G, B.
Notes, the notes that you're playing, maybe in order from top to bottom or
Right.
bottom to top.
Oh, okay. Right. So D, G, B, F.
Yep.
7, G, B, no, G, no, D, G, B, F. And
yes.
Now, which is C, G, G, C, E.
Yes. Good. Good. And then you repeat. So
And
then
now
you
we
go
do
up a
it again.
fret. That nice and challenging up a fret, right? You can see all these
Right,
sharps.
so now it's C sharp, G sharp 7,
Yes.
which is G sharp.
No, you got D sharp in the
C,
bass, yeah?
oh, D, right, D sharp, G sharp, C, and G sharp. No, F sharp.
F sharp, yes.
Sorry.
F sharp, and when you C, it's actually not C because
Oh, it's
right?
B sharp?
Yes, it's B sharp.
It's B
Yeah.
sharp. Of course it is.
So-
That's a running joke. There is no B sharp, but there is.
yeah.
D sharp,
and then
G sharp, B sharp, and then we
F
do
sharp,
the
and then
all right, F sharp, and then C sharp, G sharp, B sharp. No, not B sharp, C.
B sharp. Yeah, now.
Oh, C sharp, right? And F.
If you've got a C sharp chord, are you going to have F in the chord?
No,
Yeah,
not.
you got to think C, E, G, or C sharp, E sharp, G sharp. So it's
Sharp.
not F, but
Not F, but G flat. No, that's not right. It can't be right. F.
C. Think of the triad C, E, G. You're
Right.
doing it up a step. So
C,
it's C
E,
sharp,
G sharp,
E sharp,
E sharp,
G sharp.
and G sharp.
So that top note is.
C sharp. Okay.
Be right back.
Sure. Oh boy, I'm having a hard time. E sharp. E sharp. That's what it is. It's
That's it.
E sharp.
You got it. It's E sharp. That's it. So I hope you see that. Like, I think this is going to be very, very good just to do one of these and practice it, because you're covering the fretboard, plus you're thinking in dominant and tonic, plus you're thinking of the notes that make up dominant and tonic in many different keys. You know, so if you do happen to come across, we do sometimes see C sharp major come up in pieces, maybe just for a moment. So it is helpful if you can think, you know, if you can think that way, you're putting it on the guitar. The shape kind of takes care of itself a little bit because it's a movable shape. It's the thinking about what's the chord and what are the notes that can be the challenge.
Right.
So maybe Robert, you could do the first one there, and Christine, you could choose one. You know, you could have a go. If you have a go at the first one of each pattern, Christine, and see which one you're most comfortable with, and then shift it up. And next week we'll go through that. Okay.
Well, that sounds great. Now we're looking at the finger fretboard from a different angle for sure.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so great work, both of you. Both really impressed with what you've done. You're sort of stretching your thinking and fretboard knowledge now. But I think a good week focusing on this will bear a lot of fruit. So
yeah,
what I need.
For sure. All right then. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck finding your glasses, Daniel.
Thank you. Yeah. All right.
They're going to be in the last place you'll look.
The last place.
I promise you.
Yeah. That's right.
Take care.
See you later.
Have a good
Bye. Bye.